Alright guys, that's Kremp again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So far, 8 teams remain at the Esports World Cup. Over the next 2 days, we will crown a champion of this $1.8 million tournament, but it will not be won by the team that won here last year. FaZe bombed out of the tournament in top 12 yesterday, and there has been major reaction to this news. What's going to happen with their roster next? What does the team think about it? And what's Dashy's perspective after all that Drazah had to say earlier in the season when OpTic was struggling? Now it's Dashy's turn to get his own back, but will Dashy and OpTic make a run today in the tournament? Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Big thanks to PrizePicks as well, supporting the content this weekend. If you guys want to get involved in daily fantasy, look at the link in the description box below, download the app, use code Breaking Points, claim $50 on your first $5 pick. It goes to show, by the way, what a revelation Mercules has been, that his line in terms of KD for this 100 Thieves series is less than more than 1.09. So plenty of other options on the day as well. Play responsibly if you choose to do so, and let's dive straight into this, because Cloud9 played FaZe last night, and we talked about this series as it was ongoing. Cloud9 looked like they might potentially bring a reverse sweep here, but it didn't happen because FaZe close out in 5 maps. And what an amazing story for this team, and I think especially for Fire. This is really cool to see, and I'm really happy for the guy, because Fire, if you guys remember, when he used to be known as Fire 40, was in the league on Paris Legion back in Cold War, and he was pretty bad. Like, he wasn't... To be fair, some of his series weren't terrible, it's just the end of his stint on Paris was just so bad that people started calling him Fire.40 and all this stuff, and his reputation tanked as a result, and it felt like after that stint he was never going to get another opportunity. But he's grinded hard over the last few years, got given this opportunity because Ravens, were meant to be here, right? So FaZe weren't even meant to be at this tournament, and he turned up against a pro team yesterday, drops a 1.31 KD, and knocks another pro team out of the tournament. This is a remarkable story, and it says a lot about the current state of the league and where we need to go from here, because this FaZe team wasn't even meant to be here at this tournament, and they knocked out G2, and then they knocked out Cloud9. What a horrific season for Cloud9, by the way, to bomb out in this fashion. Capsidal, Exceed, Hixie, and Fire, like, what a team. Obviously happy for all of these guys. It's a great story from top to bottom. Exceed had a pretty difficult map 3, so did Capsidal, but, they started strongly, and they finished strongly as well on that final map, Protocol. They won it 6-1 to knock Cloud9 straight out of there. Fire goes 8-3 on the final map. So crazy stuff. Cloud9, I mean, what a shambles. The Gwyn change didn't do anything, and it has raised lots of questions on, what do they need to do? Is Sib the right man to build around? Will somebody else try and go and get Sib for next season? Is that a situation the Falcons might consider? But last year, we didn't get any Challengers teams into the bracket. This year, we got 2. Omit did it by beating FaZe, and then Exceed and the boys did it by beating 2 pro teams, G2 and Cloud9. Yeah, they were the weakest seeded teams that didn't make the World Championship, but still, that's a mega result. So, fair play to Exceed, not bad for the Burger King, he says, I thought it was great. And as Fire says, GG C9 in the bracket, feels amazing to show people how much have improved, and hopefully this is the start of something to come for him. And, we know that Envoy made that take, didn't he, earlier in the season, no talent in challenges, and it's not exactly what he said. He was kind of saying, like, there's not enough talent to justify expansion, rather than there isn't totally no talent. But the point is that some of these guys that have gone down to Challengers over the last few years, even Neptune, right? Like, he was in the league in Cold War and was solid enough. He was flashy, but he wasn't especially effective. Went down to Challengers, even went back to Halo, I think, for a little bit of time, then has come back to COD and has been a real revelation, right? So it can happen. Huke was in Challengers at the start of the year, as we know, and is now maybe the best player in the entire game. Cap says GG's to C9. That's the other hilarious story here, right? Because they dropped it, right? They dropped him for Gwyn before the tournament, and he turns up to the tournament, wasn't even meant to be there, and he knocks out the team that dropped him, so it doesn't get any better than that. And as Zinni says about Fire, hopefully this event helps the community become a little more open-minded when they decide to put stigmas on players' names. Team dynamic matters, players improve, etc. And also I think it will, well, as Methods also says, I've seen enough, bring back the 16-team league. I think 12 is just an annoying number for the league, because it just doesn't go very well. And with the players, in terms of 16 is good because it's 2 to the power of 4, so you can split it up numerous ways. You can have 4 groups of 4, you can have a 16-team bracket, you can do a number of ways. 12 is just not a great number really to work with. And as Major Maniac says, we ask for expansion but get a gate-kept league. So I think it says a lot, and congratulations to the Challengers teams that did make it to the bracket, because it didn't happen last year. There was maybe an upset or 2, but this year there was some proper upsets, and yesterday was absolute cinema. And I'm Assault with a few words words on his career after officially calling it a day yesterday after Team War bowed out of the tournament, and he says, you know, this is it for me. I've been competing since Black Ops 1, been a part of some crazy moments in my career, and, you know, OpTic fans will remember some of those in 2016, and then, of course, 2018, went on to win the World Championship with Evil Geniuses. I've given all I can to this game, and it's time for my next chapter in life, whatever that might end up being. Thanks to my teammates, coaches, etc. So, thought that was really nice to see from Assault. Great career, honestly. I mean, look, there's not many players who's only, I mean, literally it is one player whose only event win, apart from Mercules, I guess now, but Assault's only ever event win was Champs, and he won MVP at the World Championship. So, I mean, it's pretty epic, to be fair. I imagine Mercules, having now done that, he'll probably go on to win more events in the future, Mercules. He might win this one, right? So, I think Assault, honestly, in World War II, and even in other games, but Assault's sometimes a bit of an underrated player. I think in World War II, he was actually sensational with the bar. Like, this guy was a walking 1.4 on Saint-Marie Dumont. It was actually absurd, and I know lots of people based their performances on what Assault was doing that year. So, good luck to him in his next chapter. We also got some comments here from Xnid on the situation as well. Obviously, it's kind of a long statement, right, talking largely to the fans, but he does say at the end, as I promised you before, I won't leave until I achieve, and that is a promise. So pretty much he's saying, like, I ain't going anywhere. Falcons, we're obviously going to rebuild back and stronger next season. Pred shouldn't be going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. Xnid says that he's not going anywhere. So that means that maybe a two-man change for the Falcons coming in hot in the off-season. And could they replace one of their current players with somebody from FaZe? Because Mac did it again after terrorizing FaZe at times over the last couple of years, was out of the league. Now, well, maybe after this is going to be back in the league, but he was in the Challengers team with Omid, and he knocks FaZe straight out of the tournament. The picture at the start of the video here was from Syrup, and this was Simp in his post-losing interview. And, you know, we don't see these too often in esports, really. When we do, it always makes me feel kind of bad for the players, and this is another one, really, because, I mean, look how sad Drazah looks, man. Like, they did this exit interview with Drazah, and Sib, what I find it, like, not ridiculous, but, like, Sib tweeted this out. Like, he also got bopped out of the tournament in top 12, but whatever. So he tweets this out. This is what they put on their TikTok. This is Mac destroying the key. And I mean, look at Drazah's face, man. Like, he looks so sad. He says GG's to Omid. He gets out of there. And, well, look, they were the reigning champions at the end of the day. Everyone's got their opinion on these kind of, like, losers interviews. But where does this team go from here? 04 was tweeting, presumably, about it, kind of saying, that's pretty interesting. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Which teams could FaZe look to get players from? But also, where might those players go? I mean, there's so many angles here. What FaZe's team is going to look like next season? Who are they going to try and get? Whether their players are going to go somewhere else, which I'm sure that they will, what that looks like is a big question mark, right? I mean, Omid even tweeted it out yesterday with the, the Simp in and out card in the background, and we've got aBeZy in a Falcons jersey. So, look, who knows what the future holds, but there are so many possibilities here. OpTic Simp, you know, is it still possible? I mean, like, you can't rule anything out, although I do feel like this is particularly unlikely as it stands. And as BenJ says, they had a great 6-year run, but it's all now come to a conclusion, getting knocked out of the tournament by Omid in a 3-1 fashion. Didn't even make the Game 5 against the Challengers team. I mean, that is a scoreboard for the ages right there. So tough series from Drazah. Was a bit of drama because Ronnie says the ends, and so we know that Maven, pretty big FaZe guy, and well, anyway, he's a big fan of Simp and that team in general. He used to be a big fan of Former back in the day, and we know that he was given it large after the World Cup, because after the World Championship, talking about how important the World Cup was, and these other factors. And I think Maven, like, he could have just decided not to reply to this, but he replied anyway, and he said, oh, is it another insecure OpTic fan? FaZe stink, and I don't care about EWC, otherwise I would be there. So that's just some more drama of the day. But this was happening back in March, and Drazah tweeted this out a couple of times when OpTic was struggling heavily, because Drazah was tweeting as if he's kind of broken the green wall, right? The CEO of OpTic, as it were. And, well, it looks like he's taken CEO of OpTic out. I think he had it in his bio, didn't he? But it's clearly not there anymore, if he did anyway. Now, I will say, Drazah's reign as CEO of OpTic was one of the greatest of all time, right? Like, this guy, 2 championship rings for OpTic under Drazah's tenure, and he managed to collapse the trio, right? I mean, we know that Drazah and aBeZy had all that beef because of the girlfriend stuff a couple of years back, and then he ended up joining the team anyway. So maybe this is the long con from Drazah to take down FaZe from the inside. But I don't know where Drazah goes next, because I think he's a very, very impressive player, and maybe he even stays on FaZe. I don't think it's impossible, but I do think other teams, maybe a team like Toronto, who knows what they decide to do in the offseason, they could consider Drazah's services, but this team is not staying together any longer. And as Dashy says, what have I done, right? Because, you know, I think he even said this a couple of times now. This is the second time he's done it to take the piss out of Drazah, really. Because, you know, Drazah was given it large when OpTic was struggling earlier in the season, and here OpTic go after a crazy turnaround, and FaZe just bombed out of the tournament to a challengers team. Dashy says, you know, what have I done? And even Illy was in the reply saying that I stemmed it, and then you finished it. So everyone's getting involved in the evening. There was even some good memes going around as well. Every summer Fate chooses a CEO for the sacrifice, and well, this year it was OpTic CEO Drazah. So where do they go from here? What changes do they make? BenJ did a video on it last night, and we'll get to why this is relevant in a second, but BenJ did a video last night and said that Cellium and Drazah are total free agents, so their contracts are up. Simp and aBeZy are still under contract for next year, but of course, well, there's two options there. Simp may want to leave, which is a potential situation. And, you know, if he does want to leave, look, if you're Simp right now, would you join OpTic if they let you? The answer is probably yes, right? Like, if OpTic were like, hey, yeah, Simp, you want to join instead of Huke? Simp would probably tell FaZe, it's been a pleasure, I'm going to OpTic. But OpTic may not do that, right? Like, especially if they win this tournament, there's no way they're going to get rid of Huke, especially going into next year's game. So today's game against Thieves is pretty relevant, but I will say that for OpTic, even if they lose today, you know, they've lost to Thieves, a team that if they lose, like, if Thieves beat OpTic today, Thieves may well go on to win the event. They may not. Somebody else may win. The bracket is stacked. But if they do, then OpTic will probably have to think, well, you know what, it was one series to, you know, one of the other best teams in the game with insane talent. Maybe that doesn't really sway our judgments, but, you know, top 8 is still top 8 at the end of the day in a single elimination situation. And if Thieves lose today, then it almost feels like surely they have to make a change, because now it's top 8 back-to-back, 2 biggest tournaments of the year. So that's the whole Thieves angle. But as I say, if Simp was to get an offer to go to one of those other teams, he may well want to go, but he just may not have those offers, right? I mean, even though he's Simp, it may not be possible. So and also there's a contract situation too. So FaZe don't have to let him go, but if he really wants out, then usually it happens. But Simp could stay under contract. I don't really see Simp and aBeZy staying together again, do you? Like, okay, maybe the trio splits up, but I kind of doubt that Simp and aBeZy as a duo even staying together. BenJ's opinion, of course, is that FaZe are going to part ways with aBeZy, and I think that's very likely. You know, there's rumours that Falcons want aBeZy, so you know, you've got to consider that as an option. And then you've got Drazah and Cell, total free agents. They can simply walk to another team, and they may get good offers elsewhere, right? I mean, maybe Falcons want to get Cellium as well. I don't know. But there's a few options for FaZe. We'll see what happens next. This is relevant, though, because HyDra confirmed last night that, as it always is with HyDra, because it's been a few years, the competitive scene is basically going to die again, and next year there's not really going to be any official HES competition. So, as a result of that, OpTic presumably no longer going to be in HyDra. What does that mean, therefore, for like a load of HyDra players? Right, and then we know that in COD, there have been some rather good HyDra players over the year. Neptune spent some time there, Huke spent some time there, Kremp came over from there, Shotzzy, Enable, Formal, you know, there's Frosty, plenty of names down that list. And then you've got guys like Legend, who has been killing it in HyDra lately and clearly has an awful lot of raw talent, says straight up free agent for Black Ops 7. I don't know if Legend's going to be grinding challenges. If I was a team out there looking for a bit of a rebuild, I'm trying to get this guy because it's, you know, a risk with some high upside. So just wanted to throw that out there, right, given the FaZe dynamics, that this is something at least to keep in mind. This is the prize pool for the tournament. These are where the teams have been eliminated so far. G2, Orchid, Team War, Project 7 out in 16th. Cloud9, Gentamates, Falcons, FaZe out in 12th. And then today we will see the 4 teams that are eliminated in 5th through 8th place for $80,000 each. And that is going to be from this bracket right here. So OpTic play Thieves in the quarterfinals. I think that's the last game of the day. Nobody's surprised at that. Heretics versus Breach. Toronto effectively Movistar Koi versus Omid. And Surge versus Five Fears, right? So both of the Challengers teams find themselves on the same side of the bracket. So who knows, right? Like maybe there's a world where we get a Challengers team in the grand finals. But seems pretty unlikely. Maybe Omid can do something, but I'm expecting Surge to get the job done. I mean, you look at this bracket, it looks like it's another Surge second place. I don't know if that's going to be true, but we'll see. I hope that it's not for their sake. I'd love them to get over the line and win one. Heretics, I mean, they're on a tough side of the bracket, right? If they beat Boston, then they'll play OpTic or Thieves. So, yeah, pretty mega bracket that we've got on our hands here, to be honest. And look, the winner of the OpTic Thieves series is going to be the favourite for the tournament. I think OpTic are the favourites to win the series. As I said yesterday, I think it's kind of 60-40, so I'll stick with that. But these are the games in order. It starts with Heretics Boston, then Surge 5 Fears, then Toronto Omid, and then OpTic versus 100 Thieves to close out the day. So very much interested to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.